Hey guys, Cam here from 9 to 5 Google, and I think it's fair to say that BlackBerry hasn't had the best of times over the last few years. And as the iPhone has gone from strength to strength over the last 9 years since it was launched, BlackBerry has had to start all over again with its very first Android handset. But just how does BlackBerry's first Google-powered phone compare with what many regard to be the best phablet around? Now, last time I compared an Android device with an iPhone 6s Plus, it was the Motorola X Style, which, although besting the iPhone in a number of spec departments, is nowhere near as expensive. With the PRIV, the iPhone has a competitor which costs near the same amount. At $699 unlocked, it's only $50 cheaper than the lowest storage 6s Plus. But with that said, it's worth noting that the PRIV offers 32GB of internal storage and can be expanded up to an impressive 2TB if required. Design-wise, it's hard to think of two more different flagship phones than the iPhone 6s Plus and the PRIV. But then again, you could say that about any phone in comparison to the QWERTY-equipped portrait slider from Waterloo. While the iPhone is a single seamless piece of 7000 series aluminium with rounded edges, the BlackBerry has a soft-touch carbon fiber effect plastic back panel. Now, although the pattern looks great and the rear shell feels great, it does have some give in it when you press it down. Now, that's not to say it's weak, it actually feels pretty solid overall. The sliding mechanism is smooth and isn't loose, and the display which slides up is given a sense of durability and class by a metal frame and back panel. Size-wise, with the PRIV shut, the iPhone is a few millimeters taller than the BlackBerry. Slide it open to reveal the keyboard, and understandably the PRIV is much longer. What I did appreciate, however, is that even when open, the PRIV is well balanced. Unlike older slide-up phones, it's not top-heavy at all. Overall, on the design front, I think for most users the iPhone is going to appear the better option. Clearly there are fewer moving parts, and its sturdy aluminium frame is very durable. With that said, I have to respect BlackBerry because there are so many wrong ways of doing a sliding smartphone. Getting that sliding mechanism to feel right and making it balanced in hand and ensuring that it feels good takes a lot of consideration and thoughtful design, so I'm pretty impressed. And the curved glass on the edges shows BlackBerry still knows how to build good hardware. With all that said, the Apple smartphone is still an example in how to make an elegant, beautiful and solid phone. Now, talking displays, both the phones have their upsides. BlackBerry has equipped its first Android phone with a dual-curved 5.4-inch Quad HD resolution display. It's impressive on many fronts. Because it's AMOLED, you get deep blacks that you won't see on the iPhone's display. Colours are full of life and content looks almost like it's floating on top of the glass. Now, there is the tiny issue that whites tend to distort and alter colour when you look at them from a different angle, sometimes appearing yellow or blue, but that's not really a major issue. Screen tech purists might say that the iPhone's display is much better. It's clean, sharp, and an accurate display panel, and considering it's LCD, blacks are remarkably dark. But despite the quality of Apple's display, I think I still prefer the BlackBerry overall. Even though you can't really tell the difference between Full HD and Quad HD in terms of sharpness, the curves do add a very aesthetically pleasing element. As you swipe through content, it appears to curl around the edges, which is really neat. It's the kind of added feature that makes the user experience just a little different. Now, looking at technical specifications of the two devices, you'd think performance and battery life was vastly better on the BlackBerry. But that's where looking at specs on paper can be misleading. While it boasts a 3,410 mAh battery versus the iPhone's 2,750, I consistently got better battery performance from the iPhone, at least in everyday use. I can get through almost 2 days of use without having to charge the iPhone 6s Plus, but with the BlackBerry I'd often have less than 40% left at the end of the first day. And of course, if I leave it on overnight, it inevitably drains while I'm sleeping. I was still impressed though that I still somehow managed to get more than 5 hours of screen on time with the PRIV from a full charge. What's more, it has Quick Charge 2.0 support, meaning you can charge it back up to 70% in the space of an hour. Overall speed and smoothness is generally good on both phones, although most of the time it did appear like it was a little bit more effortless on the iPhone. There were moments of lag and stutter on the PRIV, but the hexa-core Snapdragon 808 chip does a pretty good job of rendering most animations. Having seen how Marshmallow has impacted lower-end devices, I predict BlackBerry will be even better when Android 6.0 drops for the PRIV. Meanwhile, the iPhone's A9 processor was about as buttery smooth as you can expect. I saw very little delay or frame rate dropping. It wasn't perfect, but it was very good. And the same can be said of the iPhone's camera. There's no two ways about it. If you want a phone that takes good pictures easily, you won't find many handsets better. Excluding maybe the Sony Xperia Z5, the Galaxy Note 5 and the Nexus 6P, the BlackBerry PRIV 16-megapixel Schneider-Kreuznach snapper isn't quite up there with those. But it's a decent enough camera. In good daylight, the PRIV's camera can take some really great shots that are sharp. I particularly like the exposure compensation bar on the bottom of the screen that lets you alter brightness levels during shooting. In low light though, things aren't so hot. And although both can take good pictures in daylight, I think the one thing that stood out for me when comparing results was the dynamic range. While the iPhone seems to cope well with contrasting levels and balances them out, BlackBerry's gives a much harsher distinction between the light and the dark areas of the picture. As an overall, both phones have their advantages. Both are big, fast devices with good battery life and great design. I think on the hardware front, for most people, the iPhone is going to be the better option, and that's not without mentioning the iOS ecosystem, which, as much as it pains me to say it as an Android fan, is still very, very strong. Thanks to BlackBerry's security software though, it's easy to ensure you can keep this device protected from potential hacks. If you were to ask me personally, I think the PRIV is one of the best smartphones ever made. It might not be perfect and it might not compare well to the iPhone in every single regard. But at last we have a good physical keyboard in a device which isn't big and bulky and isn't a mid-range phone. What's more, the software features I mentioned in the previous video make Android better by adding useful features like the hub and quick action shortcuts. I've been Cam, I'm at Cam Bunton on Twitter. You can ask me questions, leave me your comments and suggestions and your opinions in the comment section down below, and I'll see you again soon.